our residents who couldn't be here this evening, both city and non-city. So who would like to go first? I'm going to do a lot of running around. All right, go into that. Gulf Breeze resident Jim.
I live on Gilmore Drive. And on July 24, 2018, the News Journal had an article about a 2-year-old black bear went injured when it was tranquilized and fell from a tree on Pace Boulevard. Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission spokesman Robert Klemper said the bear seems to be in good condition after the fall, is expected to be released into a more suitable habitat later in the day. What's the difference between them and us? And I love to see, instead of spending $250,000 on bear things over a garbage can, I'd better put the money to a more humane thing, to relocate it back to the Eggman. And if it comes back, just do it again the next time. It's not that hard, is it? I don't know.
Okay. Dave, would you mind answering that one?
Yeah, so, okay, is this working or am I just not? Okay. Yeah, so in certain, right?
No problem.
Okay. In certain situations, like the bears in the middle of Pensacola, we will pick it up, but guess where we put it? Escribano Point. We don't put it anywhere really far away. And as I showed you guys, 135 square miles, if we move from Gulf Breeze and put it in Escribano Point, it's about the same. It's been there, it's done that. The other problem is if we catch a bear and move it because it's just sort of being a bear, when we actually have to catch it because we have to put it down, it doesn't want to get caught again. So it gets smart to traps. So we try to reserve that for, we call it a wayward bear, again, in the middle of Pensacola, in the middle of Orlando, in the middle of Miami. We try to reserve that for those situations. If the animal's injured and we have to assess it to figure out if it's going to be able to survive, those kind of things. But if we were to catch bears and move them, number one, 70% of the time, we know it doesn't work. Number two, we're moving a problem. And number three, there's no guarantee that once I've caught it once, it's willing to get caught again. So now it's been moved, it comes back. And so we used to do this a lot, but now because bears are everywhere where there could be bears almost, there's not that opportunity to do that. But it is a logical thing, and we used to do it, so it's not a surprise. That is the normal thing folks ask us to do, but it just doesn't work.
This one come back? Further after this bear, then come back?
I'd have to look. I mean, I'm not off the top of my head. I can't tell you.
Before we go to the next question, is there anyone else on the panel that would like to talk to the issue of the relocation of bears? Okay, all right, we're going to go to the next. Okay. This is Gulf Breeze resident Teresa.
So one of the comments you made, you said we're supposed to make a loud noise or whatever if it's not a female. What if we see a female and she's potentially got cubs present? What's our behavior at that point? And then my second question is, for those of us that have had 5, 6 encounters with a bear and I never called, should I call at this point so you know the volume? Okay.
Right. So when I say, and that was referring to paintball, like what I'm suggesting is you probably don't want to use a slingshot or paintball on a female with cubs. That's a step too far is what I would suggest. We might be able to do that if we can assess the scene, but I don't suggest that any random person says, hey, I see a female with cubs, I'm going to hit him with a paintball. But if you are in a safe spot, there's no reason why you should not yell at them and do normal things to try to scare them off. As far as if you've had 6 different encounters, call us, let us know, hey, this is when it happened. Now, the trick is, and what's so important to us is when it happened. Because if you tell me you had a bunch of encounters and it was last month, that bear could not be the same bear anymore. So, but it doesn't mean that we don't want to know, it just means that it's really important to try to let us know within a day or something so that we can get a feel for, well, she had that encounter this day, and I look at my database and 2 houses away, that's where that was. That also means we can start patterning. If we have to catch the bear, we can figure out what their pattern is, because again, you might see it one day and now it's on Eglin Air Force Base the next day. But yes, we do want to know, even if it was a week ago, and you're like, hey, I've actually had 3 incidences, we do want to know what's going on, because that kind of gives us a window into what's going on.
Headed to the back. Southeast resident John.
This is on the topic of the waste collection. I had a visit from FWC when there was a bear encounter in our neighborhood, and he saw that my can was down. He cited me, or it let me know that I can't have a can out by the side of the road that's not secured, and it has to be either locked or in a secure location. And that doesn't seem logical, because I've also spoken to the waste collection driver and said, I'm not getting out there like anybody's can. I drive an automated truck. And so I want clarification on what is the fact regarding having a can by the side of the road that's not locked. Because no one can be at home every time the truck driver arrives. You don't know when he's going to arrive, or if he's delayed by a day or something like that. It just doesn't seem logical.
Right, so what the waste companies have basically in general agreed to, and I say in general because everyone's different and they're all franchises. So even one city within a county, they may have a different agreement. So in general, what we hear from waste companies is if you unlock it before they come, they'll service it. But you can't have it locked when they show up. A lot of the services, they're actually not supposed to get out of the truck at all. But what that means is all the rest of the time when it's not getting serviced, it's locked. So even if you unlock it at night, I'd rather you didn't, but even if you lock it at night, that means 6 days a week it's locked. But you do have to unlock it for service to happen. Otherwise, they're not going to get out and unlock it. That's just a waste service standard thing.
Yeah, but you're still subject to citation if the can's unlocked and he doesn't pick up the can and he gets knocked over and it's spotted by FWC. You're going to get a citation.
If your can is unlocked, then you're not going to have a problem. What I'm suggesting is that as long as you unlock it before service, that means the rest of the time you are in compliance.
It's still an issue, though.
Oh, I agree. I mean, ideally, and I think, and glad she pointed out, they have really, really fancy bear-resistant cans that have a gravity latch that no one has to touch it. The robot arm comes out, it dumps it, and the thing opens, and when it closes, it just shuts down.
Yeah, those are a large investment. Those are the cans you're referring to that would cost the city $700,000 plus to equip everything with.
Correct. And so what some places do is they lease it to the residents. So the residents have to pay a certain amount extra per month to have those. What I would suggest is there's a bunch of different options. That's not the only one, but it would solve I don't want to get up and unlock the can before servicing.
Well, you may not be there. I mean, if you leave in the morning, you leave it unlocked, and the driver doesn't come till late that afternoon, but a bear visits before the driver, then you have an issue.
If you've shown that you've locked it, our officers are reasonable. They're not going to, again, if you have locks, and most of the time it's locked, our officers are reasonable. They show discretion. I would be pretty confident that they're not going to try to get folks who are trying to do the right thing, but they have to have unlocked and they have to leave earlier or things like that.
Southeast resident Carolyn.
Hi, I have a situation that at the moment could be hypothetical, but we're talking about something that's increasingly becoming probable is in this city proper where I live, and I no longer have young children, but there are quite a few families with young children. One person who's not here tonight was having, and I'm not correct, was having a birthday party for his 3-year-old, and the children, the bear got into the birthday cake. The children were kept inside. The bear has been back several times in their yard. I may know, or I might start to carry a whistle, but hypothetically a young child could be carrying lunch to school. Children like to camp on Dead Man's Island. I like to kayak over there. I pick up trash. I have seen bear tracks. My concern is at this point, as these bears become more comfortable, for example, the other night we had people over, a bear started to climb over our fence, yelled at it, he did back off, and he swam around in front of us for a while and went over to the island. That, I realized, yes, what I did see were bear tracks. So my concern, as I've already mentioned to Samantha, is that the young children, you can't always rely on a young child to react appropriately. If a bear is between a child and a form of escape or from the bear and food. At that point, is that, I guess, an emergency situation? How is that going to be addressed, aside from training programs?
Right, so like I said, bears aren't active predators. They don't try to seek people out to injure them. And with 5,000 to 6,000 calls a year, 6,000 bears to 21.5 million people, we just haven't had the scenarios you're talking about where the bear actually does anything. Those scenarios have happened. We actually had a bear run through somebody's birthday party. Now the bear was running away from something else, and when it climbed the fence, completely freaked out, including all the kids freaked out. But kids aren't very quiet, and so immediately the bear took off the other way. What I would say is, we don't expect kids to have whistles and all those other things, but bears are not out to get kids. They're not out to get people. They are pretty afraid of people. And I can guarantee you, without even knowing the full story, that I'm pretty sure that the birthday cake was probably unattended. If all the kids are surrounded the birthday cake, I don't know about you, I have kids, they're not quiet. So, likely the bear came, saw a free meal, and now the kids get their birthday parties spoiled or really cool, I don't know what. But they are not out to get anybody. They're just not active predators, it's not in their MO. I'm not saying it can't happen. What we try to do in our policy design is to try to get inside their mind and figure out which bear has crossed the line that we have to catch and kill. That is really hard to do. We could be super aggressive and have no tolerance, and if it's in a human-dominated area, we'd have to kill it. That'd be a whole lot of bears. So what we try to do is figure out, based on your feedback, what bears are doing, and once we start, that doesn't sound right, we actually go in and try to remove them. But the scenario you're playing out is many, many, many people play it out to us and say, what if this happened? We have not had that happen. And when it does, if a bear is anywhere in the proximity of a kid, they show very indifferent. They're just not, they're not interested. That's what we have experienced.
Resident Ray Vaughn?
Yes, Chief Hawthorne, I have a question for you. How many calls have you logged this year at the police department about bear encounters?
I actually tried to look that up before I came here. For the police department itself, we've only got around 40. Like I said, a lot of people do not call us. I hear about it, as they said, on next, someone tells me, oh, it's all over next door neighbor and everything else. So we have not received that many actual bear calls. But on the other part of it is, some of them when they call them and they tell the dispatcher, he just ran across my yard, they just forward that call straight to FWC, so we don't have a true record of that.
It was very close to a bear. There were two of them in their backyard. The bear climbed over, it was 15 feet from our back deck. We had people over, there was 4 of us yelling at the bear, and it was staring at us. If we had food and we were eating outside on our deck, I don't know what the result would be. So we saw the bear crawl back over the fence. The 2 bears swam around another neighbor's dock, swam to the island. Our neighbor's son spent the night on the island with the bears. There are, I imagine, thousands of encounters. So here's my thought. At what point is there enough risk for the city of Gulf Breeze? You indicated if it's in the city of Pensacola, it would be moved. In the city of Orlando, it would be moved. I think what needs to be done is perhaps a tally, an accurate tally of incidents, so that we really know how many bears are interfacing people's lives. I don't feel comfortable going out to take the trash out at night. I don't feel comfortable mowing my backyard. Thank you.
I totally agree, and I hope you guys are listening when I say, please call us. We cannot do things about anything we don't know. And I mean, you're relaying all these things. I think some people either don't call because they figure we know about it already, don't call because they don't know who to call, or don't call because they can put it on social media. All those things we don't get to know. So yes, we would love to know what's actually going on and how often it's happening. And again, if there's 40 calls to the police, 168 to us, at least double that is actually happening, at least. So yeah, we want to know. I totally agree with you, but I will say this. I don't want anybody to feel like these bears are out to get you. You should not be uncomfortable with mowing your lawn. You should not be uncomfortable with walking your dog. Bears are not out to get you. And again, you're in a very low population of bears. In areas that have lots and lots of bears, people walk. They have kids. They have grandkids. They walk their dogs. Like, if you know what to expect and you know how to get them to not be eating out of your yards, it's not an issue. And I know I can say that all day long and you're like, but I still feel uncomfortable. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here to talk to you about bears and bear behavior and what to expect.
All right, we have Resident Marianne.
Hi, I do not feel like they are aggressive or anything, but they have torn up my property. And I called you guys, and all I got was, I'll send you a pamphlet about how to live with a bear. Well, I feel like most people in here, we all Googled what should we do? I've kept my trash in the garage. I don't feed birds anymore. Screw the birds, because we can't feed them. But they have torn down 2 fences at my house. They've gotten my patio furniture. They've ripped that apart. They've gone through my beautiful landscape and pulled up birds of paradise. But I mean, when they walk through something, they're so big that they just flatten everything out. I'm loud as everything. I'm probably the loudest person you're going to ever meet. I can scare them off by screaming. I'm deaf in one ear. I'm not going to walk around with a blowhorn and fear losing my hearing in another ear. I don't want to bang and whistles and all that. But it's me. I saw 3 encounters with them yesterday at my house. They're at my house all the time. They're not eating, except the plants that I just mentioned that they destroyed. So you talk about, I want to understand what to do. Only thing I hear or see is an electric fence. Well, I'm on 3 acres. Am I supposed to enclose my property now and spend that money? I just don't, I'm at a loss here. I'm not anti-bear. I think bears are great, but I can't have them tearing up my property. You know, and I'm here for what do I need to do? It's not, don't tell me about a bird feeder, don't tell me about my garbage. That's not what we're doing at my house. They're in the hot tub, they're laying on the lounge chairs. You know, I mean, they're tearing up stuff.
Right. And so what I'll tell you, and I think what I'm hearing is your initial call is there's a bear doing something, and you say, hey, here's a packet, okay? Depending on when you call, if you call in the evening and you're talking to folks at the 188 number, understand those are our duty officers who their job is to send out someone because someone is dying or something is really, really, really badly happening. So they're not going to give you the same attention as if you call during the week, Monday through Friday, you're going to talk to biologists. That's going to be a little more information. So you're not going to just get that, here's your packet. The other thing is, what you're telling me is something we would normally do a site visit for. Because you're saying, I don't want birdseed, I don't want garbage. So we would come out and figure out what it is that they're so attracted to and how do we figure out how to deal with it. But if you're dissuaded because that first call, all you got was a brochure, I get it why you don't want to call again. But we do want to know because it's happening more and more to you, and we want to know, is it because the bear's going from your house and you just happen to be the travel way to another place?
Well, they roam. You just told, I mean, I know what they're, I can feel it because they've been doing this since June the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been at my house almost every day, multiple times a day.
Right, and what I'm suggesting to you is that if we did a site visit, we can see in the neighborhood, what is it that is not obvious in your yard, but is it somewhere else that maybe 2 houses down, we could talk to that neighbor and say, hey, please stop putting birdseed out. I mean, there's things we can do to figure out why they're spending so much time on your yard. But again, I get why you want to give up on us because you only give your brochure, but if it's another incident, call us again about that.
I call you like yesterday, I should have called 3 times.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And-
I wasn't aware of that, because they've literally been at my house multiple times a day since June the 23rd.
Did you speak to someone about it, or they just give you?
Yes, and I sent them pictures of the bear laying by the kayak, laying on my furniture, in my hot tub. I mean, I've sent all these pictures. I mean, it's Cub Med at my house.
Well, man, I'm gonna get your name, and so we can follow up with you and figure out what's going on, because what you're describing is exactly why we do site visits, because it's
That'd be
nothing obvious.
awesome.
Yes, so I will do.
All right, and we have Resident Cynthia.
Yes, and so I will say that I also called because she posted her post to our next door neighbor. I called that day, I sent Shelby Burgess no less than 6 or 7 videos of all, Bear's been at my house 3 times. But I've sent 6 or 7 videos, and I was told that I could not report your bear, even though it has an address, even though I have a picture. I couldn't report her bear because it wasn't my bear, it's my house.
And I don't like calling them my bear.
I saw what the bear had done at your house, and the bear's in my house. I have a picture on June 14th. I'm sorry, I have a picture on June 14th of me walking out my door at 10:45, I can show you, out in the morning, out my door with my little dog. I walk in, and at 12:02, I have a bear hanging at my back door on my light picture. And I've got the picture to prove it. I have reported it. I did get the pamphlet, and y'all did come out and tell me that I could be cited if I didn't put my trash up.
So
Everything's been removed.
the reason why, and it's not you can't report it, it's that we want to talk to the person who, so we can dig in deeper and find out. If it's like, hey, my friend posted on social media, blah, 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 blah. Like, I want to talk to that person. It's not we can't report it. We actually have to start digging to find that person to make sure that we get the right
Well,
information.
and the purpose of me doing that was so you can see a pattern. There's a pattern of where there's bear crowds.
Yes, and that's what we want to do.
And that's why I sent the pictures. Here he was on Pine Point. Here he was on a video. Here he was on, a
Right.
block over. Here he is on Cordova. It's a pattern.
Correct.
And we see the pattern.
Correct.
And we would like you to see the pattern as well.
Right, but I also want to say this. Expect bears in Gulf Breeze. Okay, I don't want you to think that if you tell me that you saw a bear here, okay, we're going to send in the mod squad. Like, that's right.
Right.
But anyway, we're not going to do that. But what I am going to say is if you have a conflict, they're breaking your fence, they're doing that, then we can try to figure out what is that conflict.
Yeah. My biggest conflict was when I had my 5 grandbabies there and the bear showed up. Because a child walking around the corner from Dallas, Texas, runs into a bear and they're in between my house and my garage and there's a fence. The bear has nowhere to go. My grandchild has nowhere to go. A bear would swing out at a child, and it wouldn't be that he's trying to attack the child. We all understand that. I think everybody knows that bears are timid. However, put in that situation, or if I had walked out the door an hour and a half later with my little dog and the bear came around the corner, it would have been a different story. And I think everybody in this room is saying, we don't want it to have to come to that to do something about it. I've lived here 22 years. I've never seen a bear until now. I live in the middle of Gulfbreeze property. I don't live on the water. I don't live close to a forest. I live in the middle of town.
I understand.
22 years, I've never seen one.
I understand, absolutely understand.
Resident Robert Turpin. We know him. Heavily engaged, wonderful citizen.
Thank you, and I appreciate the FWC. I work with you guys on a number of different topics, and I do appreciate also the city of Gulf Breeze hosting this, and our elected officials, Senator Broxton and the others that are here. I'm just going to take some questions that I have after reviewing the bear management plan and the recent update. Is it says in Santa Rosa County, our land area is 4,197 square miles. The potential bear habitat is 2,618 square miles. So I'm asking what factors of the remaining 1,579 square miles make it not potential bear habitat, and where are they? My concern that's related to this is the city of Gulf Breeze we're almost 100% developed. We only have a little over 100 acres of undeveloped land. The rest is people's yards. And if the bears don't have enough natural food in that 105 or 110 acres, then they have no choice but to feed on garbage cans that are even locked. And I've given you tonight a picture of a locked garbage can that was opened by a bear. My concern also is the 4 bears that I've had recent encounters at my home, one on my front porch, and I did exactly what the plan says. I try to scare them. I've got air horns, I've got whistles. The most concerning that I had was about a 175-pound bear was at my front window, at my front door. My wife walked out and slammed the door. I walked out and tried to scare the bear away. Instead of going away from me, I walked around the very large boxwood, and the bear was actually meeting me in the middle. And I literally yelled myself hoarse, screaming at this bear as I chased him off my property. But it wasn't a chase. I would yell, he would take a step and then turn and look at me. I would yell again, he would take a step and turn and look at me. Recently, I scared 2 juveniles away with the air horn. When the air horn went off, they were startled and ran a few feet, but as soon as the air horn froze, when the gas expands and they have a tendency to freeze, as soon as the air horn shut off, they stopped and looked at me. I went and got my whistle and did the same thing. When I was making noise, they would walk away, and as soon as I would take a breath to whistle again, they would turn and look at me. The most scary was about a 400-pound, full-grown adult black bear that was in the seam of mine and my neighbor's yard, and he's roughly the size of Chief Hawthorne. He's bigger than me, and the 2 of us together would have been a formidable sight for an adult black bear or any black bear. That bear would have run away. It did not. My concern is that the bears that are coming out of the Eglin area have moved down the Fairpoint Peninsula through all the development there. They're arriving in Gulf Breeze, food conditioned and habituated. We could do everything right here in Gulf Breeze, but they're already arriving here and they're already problem bears. My concern, and you hear it now, is that people are feeling threatened in their lives and their family, and it's not going to be good for the bears or the people. I reported a bag of poison to the police department that was left out on the driveway of a yard within walking distance of where we are right now. And I'm afraid that people are going to feel like there's no action by FWC. You're telling us we're going to have to live with the bears in a city that has only 105 acres of undeveloped land that's not ballparks. I don't think anybody would say that bear country includes ball fields for children to play. The root cause of the problem here in Gulf Breeze, I believe, as a biologist, is that the arbitrary 200 bears per subpopulation that's in your bear management plan does not take into consideration the carrying capacity of the natural habitat centered in the Eglin area. You've got Eglin, the Yellow River, all that undeveloped area has a population of maybe 120 bears, it could be more, but the Florida population of black bears in the 1950s was 300 bears, we estimate. The bear population has, as a percentage, has doubled the human population in that same time. You can look at at census. Bear population is almost 1,300% increase. Human population is only about 600% increase. So it's a balance that I do not envy you, but here in Gulf Breeze, we have inherited a problem. Those bears are coming down the Fairpoint Peninsula. They hit Gulf Breeze, it's a dead end. They don't have anywhere to go. And they're here, and I'm afraid that it's going to be one of the people in Appendix 2 of your bear management plan. And with the exception of 1 or 2 people that did something foolish in here, the rest of them were just people out walking their dog. And I don't want it to be another one of the Gulf Breeze residents. It's listed here on January 28th of 2017. So it's happened here before, and it could happen again just as easily tomorrow. And what I'm hearing from my fellow residents, and I've lived here since 1971, so 50 years, I think we're at a point where let's get the bears that we have here that are a problem, that are habituated, that are food conditioned, and we're gonna have to get rid of those. And then maybe we can start with fresh bears that are not food conditioned and not habituated, that are not going to be a threat. Because I really, as a resident and as a father and as a community member, I feel like we have an impending risk that is unacceptable to our community. Thank you.
I understand what you're saying, and I do appreciate you've done a lot of research. I mean, I looked through this, and you clearly know what we're talking about here as far as our attempt to balance the situation. What I'll tell you is that those numbers in the management plan are what a bunch of research and biologists say, bears like this. We don't list urban areas as bears like this. Bears like it, but we don't list that because we don't want them there. So that's why that number is different. Like how much bear habitat, like a good bear habitat, versus how much bear habitat are actually bears living. What I will tell you is that we listen to your calls, and if we hear stuff that indicates food conditioned and habituated, we will come out and we will catch them, attempt to catch them, and we'll put them down. There's no question in my mind. So what you're describing, honestly, the 170-pound one is a little more concerning to me than the 400-pound one, and there's a reason for that. A 400-pound bear has no reason to be afraid of anything. So you yelling at it, it'll leave, but it's not gonna run. It's just like, whatever, okay? But a 175-pound bear does have a reason, and if it's not afraid of you yelling yourself hoarse, that is a concern. That is the kind of stuff that if we don't hear every call, and that one goes through the cracks, we're just hearing the bear's my birdseed, the bear's eating my chicken. None of those are triggering the alarm, and that's why we need to know this stuff. So trust me when I say we do not tolerate that, and when we hear it, we act on it, for sure. And I know everybody's kind of funny, like, fresh bears, but I get what you're saying, is that when bears learn, they don't unlearn. And so if a bear has decided it's not going to be afraid of people, and you clapping and yelling, and it's just like, no, we have to put those bears down. So when we hear that, we will act on it.
And for the record, I have called and I've talked to Shelby on the phone a few times, you may remember. And I would like to follow up, because in the bear plan, it says that we have a deficit of 707 square miles of suitable bear habitat in order to meet that population goal. So my question is, what are we doing, what is FWC doing to acquire that additional 707 square miles to meet that 200 bear population goal, so that they're not coming into communities like the city of Gulf Breeze? And I do like my trash can too.
So yeah, and I do want to point out, because this is people tell us this a lot, is that they're in the neighborhood because there's not enough habitat. No, they're in the neighborhood because the neighborhood is easy pickings. They can have the best acorn. I mean, driving through, it's called Naval Live Oaks. They love that. But it is so much effort to pick up every single acorn. They're only 4 calories each. They're gonna wanna be there. It's not that they don't have the habitat, it's that certain bears, when we collar them, certain bears will be right on the edge of the neighborhood, they'll never come in. They will never come in the neighborhood, no matter how many birthday cakes or pizzas left. But other bears will spend almost all their time in and out, in and out, in and out. So certain bears, I hate to say, but certain bears are ruined. And when we hear about that, we take action. We try to prevent these things from happening. But I will say that even the habituated and food conditioned bears that we put down, not all of them are going to hurt somebody, but we have to try to guess, and we have to try to take action. So, there may not be a bunch of bears, but the bears that are not afraid of aggressive interactions with us, we can't tolerate it. And I'm telling you right now that as the bear program coordinator, that's not something we tolerate. I'm not asking you guys to live in fear of bears. That's not fair. That's not okay. For all the bears that aren't doing that, that's not fair.
We want to be considerate of everyone's time, and so because we are approaching the 7:30 mark, I do want to just take a minute to share that Commissioner Fulton Wright has already shared, I know, on the county's platform that you plan a town hall meeting to follow up. And I'm sure that you would extend the same gracious welcome to our Gulf Breeze residents who might want to go to Midway or Tiger Point or wherever that hall event might be.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. And so if I could, I'd like to read a couple of the questions that were submitted by those who couldn't be here. We want to be respectful of those who physically or otherwise would not be able to attend. I just have a few. I'll read those quick. Try not to be repetitive. And then if we could turn it over to the panel and just if any of you would like to say a few words, we'll go down the line. That'd be okay. The first question is, and I'm just going to think this kind of summarizes it succinctly. What is the procedure for the City of Gulf Breeze to obtain a permit from FWC authorizing the city to relocate or take the bears by authorized contractors? Is there such a procedure?
That's not a thing. We as the agency are responsible for bear management. Now you'll have heard that Tyndall Air Force Base has a permit. Well, Tyndall Air Force Base has a natural resource department. They have trained wildlife professionals, but they're only allowed to relocate bears on Tyndall. So even if we were to change things and say, I mean, you guys are like, no, thank you. I don't want to take it from one point in Gulf Breeze and put it another point in Gulf Breeze. So what we do is we take it from wherever and put it in a public land setting. So Eglin Air Force Base has a permit that most places don't.
Next question is from resident Ann Livingston. Assuming all human-caused food, such as trash, bird feeders, farm animals, etc., is eliminated, what is the expected outcome for the bears? Will they move? Where to? Is there enough natural food in our woods and parks available for them here?
So what I'll tell you is that when, as I mentioned before, when Hurlburt Field did all those actions, they secured their trash, they trained security forces that when they see a bear, they scare them off with paintball. They did all those things. They had a 70% decline. So they still saw bears, but I will tell you, guess who had an increase? Fort Walton Beach. Because the bears are like, well, I'm not getting any good things here. So basically, but like I said, you guys have an advantage that the bears are lazy. If they have to walk the whole peninsula to get here and they're not getting like the good candy at Halloween, they're not going to do that. It's the same premise that I'm not saying that everyone has to have everything secure all the time, but if they're not getting a really good haul, it's just not worth it. So what eventually will happen is the bears are like, forget it, it's not worth it. And they'll probably stop at Live Oak, or they'll walk through and be like, this stinks, and they walk out. But that's what to expect, is not everybody has to do the right thing, but enough people doing the right thing, it's not worth it from a calorie perspective.
I have one more. This is from resident Barbara Bruckman. Several weeks ago, a black bear broke a large hole in the lattice surrounding the crawl space under my porch by my front steps and sheltered there. I believe it had been there at least twice. Catherine McCarty of Florida Fish and Wildlife, hi Catherine, is aware of the intrusion and sent a contractor to confirm that the broken lattice was due to a bear. Her prompt response was very much appreciated. We do not know whether the bear will return, but the incident is unsettling and presented safety concerns given the proximity of the intrusion to my entrance and the likelihood of the bear or a human surprising the other. I understood the goals of legislation to protect bears, including those in our neighborhoods. But I believe advocating for returning or relocating them to a better habitat that are suited for their needs is warranted under the circumstances. Certainly, state law did not anticipate protecting them from removal. When not doing so, it creates a situation that is unsustainable. I appreciate the efforts of FWC, but would ask those responsible for managing the population of black bears to relocate those currently in our community and to work with the city to find a permanent solution to growing the bear population.
And I've mentioned that relocation doesn't work very well, that bears will come back. But one thing I do want to say is when we talk about growing the bear population, we're not talking about where bears are now. It's hard to measure carrying capacity, which is what the gentleman mentioned. Carrying capacity is how much habitat can support how many bears. Don't worry about that. How many bears can we tolerate? That's what you want to worry about. And if bears are not behaving, that drops down. So we have to deal with that part. It's not about how much the habitat can support, because the bears will make do with whatever they got. So that's the trick. But again, where we put them, there's already bears. There's just not, unfortunately, that's not the case. But again, we are not asking people to live in fear. We're not asking people to do unreasonable things. If the tweaks that we ask you to do don't work, let us know and we will come in and deal with it. Because it's not fair to ask you guys to live in a situation that you feel like is actually a risk to public safety. We will not do that.
Thank you. I do want to share a couple bits of information before we move on to the next part of our program, and that is that if you leave, obviously we're all going to be getting up together, and I think we all know that right now there is a surge of COVID, and so we just ask if you would keep your mask on, just out of consideration for your neighbors as you come out of the hall until you exit the community center. I know that your fellow neighbors would appreciate that happening. And also, when we advertise for the event on social media and flyers and in Gulf Breeze News, there's an email there. It's pretty easy to remember. It's cityclerks@gulfbreeze.gov. And if you would to continue to submit your questions and concerns, we will make sure that it gets into the right hands. We don't want everyone to be swarmed tonight, but we don't want you to feel like at the conclusion of this meeting that there won't be the continued exchange of information. So if thoughts occur to you at the end of this meeting, please go home, submit those questions and concerns, and we'll make sure that they get shared with FWC. So for that,